Welcome to Coffee and Confidence Conversations. This is the space where purpose meets empowerment. I'm Lynnecia Eley, also known as the Confidence Doula, and I'm here to guide you on a journey to build unshakable confidence, embrace authentic leadership, and ignite the power within you. Each month, we'll sip on meaningful conversations, uncover actionable strategies, and dive deep into the real stories that shape confidence and growth and help you birth with purpose. So grab your coffee, get comfortable, and let's rise together. We are going to get started. I ask that everyone please do mute yourself because we are recording today's session. And at the end, hopefully we'll have some time to allow for questions or some audio feedback. But I am so excited for you all to join me today for a special live episode celebrating Birth with Purpose Month. So for those of you who don't know me, and this is our first time being in the room together, I am Lynnecia Eley, also known as the Confidence Doula. I am the owner and founder of She Can Inspire. She Can Inspire is a resource where we help women and early stage entrepreneurs or aspiring writers tap into their abilities to just be confident and self-assured, and also lead in careers and entrepreneurship as bold, authentic, and unapologetic women. So I'm excited about this session today. This session is personal and also powerful because this month marks 5 years since I published my first book, Birth with Purpose. Birth with Purpose is the 5 steps to drive your passions and unlock the fuel to your purpose. Now, let me be honest, before we start, Birth with Purpose is not one of those books that launched with a huge platform or a real strategic rollout. It came after years of helping women unlock their ideas and turn them into real revenue generating businesses. But what I saw in working with those women as a consultant was that the biggest barrier that they had wasn't the tools or how to complete those LLC forms. It was self-doubt. A lot of women had burnout, a lack of clarity and purpose around being in service to their purpose. So with Birth with Purpose, that was my response, not just to small business leaders or mid-level managers, it was to myself. It was a declaration that confidence, purpose, and also leadership are not separate. They're all linked and intertwined. And you don't need permission, perfection, or a title to birth what's already been growing inside of you. So I want you, it's coffee and confidence, right? So grab your coffee because we are going to get into 3 specific points this afternoon. One, have you ever felt like a single point of failure in your leadership? Or maybe you're trying to shift from the pressures of it's all on me. If I don't do it, who's going to do it? Or how are you trying to intentionally lead with purpose so you don't lose yourself, right? If I'm talking to you, you are in the right space. So grab your notebook. We're going to do some intentional work. I thank you, one, for joining me, giving me a brief moment of your time this day to just have some reflection, have a brief pause to tap into what really matters. So feel free as our conversation continues to use the chat box for comments or questions. And if time permits, I would love to answer any questions that you have or allow space for any feedback. So I want to pause for just one brief moment and remind everyone that is joining as you come into the room, please do mute yourself so that we can have a great conversation and engage in the chat box. We are live, we are recording, So if you need to jump off and want to revisit this later, the replay will be available on the Coffee and Confidence Conversations YouTube playlist. So grab your cup, take a sip, make sure you have your notebook, and let's get started. To kick us off, I do want to be real for a moment. Recently, I told my husband I feel like the single point of failure in my team. As many of you know, I am an assistant dean, managing a team of 7 academic advisors. And this summer it's been a bit rough. I felt like the single point of failure for all the mishaps that have been happening. I caught myself reflecting on something um, that if something goes wrong on my team, I don't need to carry it. If the motivation on my team dips, usually I try to fix it. I'm a fixer. If a mistake happened, I try to wonder, is it me? Did I train them enough? Was I not clear enough? Is this my fault? Have you felt like that? Have you felt like the glue or the backbone as a leader or the last stop? Are you the person everyone in your organization or on your team expects to be okay even when you're not? If that's you, drop a yes in the comments if you've ever felt like everything falls on you. If I'm talking to you, let me know. Yes. But what I want you to do is let's name it for what it is. That single point of failure feeling is a limiting belief. And if you're friends with me, you know limiting beliefs quietly chip away at your confidence. You start to second guess your leadership skills. You stop celebrating your wins, big or small, because you're so focused on what might go wrong next. You carry the emotional load of an entire system, but you never allow yourself credit for keeping it standing, right? Things may fall apart, but is the foundation still standing? You are the foundation. A limiting belief creates this quiet tension, and this is what I coach women with when you have that tension between what you're capable of and what you are never meant to carry alone, right? So here's what I've learned. And this is where I want you guys to take notes. Here's what I've learned. Just because you carry it all doesn't mean you should, right? How many of you have things you want to let fall away? Leadership isn't about being the hero. Now, if you're like me, high capacity woman, high achieving woman, you show up as the superhero in every aspect of your life. But leadership is not about being the hero. It's about building something sustainable, building processes and systems and trainings that empower people and that allow yourself to trust the process. So what do you do when single point of failure creeps in? That limiting belief creeps in your leadership, right? First thing you do, here are 3 confidence um, preserving steps that I take. 1, slow down your spiral. Have you ever felt like you're in a spiral when things around you are not going well and you're questioning your own leadership, your own training, your own inspiration? Instead of asking, what did I do wrong? I ask myself, what actually happened here? Is this about me or is this about the system? Is this about the process or the people? Now, we're not people blaming, no, because our teams are definitely a reflection of us as leaders. But asking yourself these questions internally and being honest about it shifts from blame to clarity, right? Is it the process or the people? I'm looking at the chat. Yes, ask yourself. Most times it's the process, let's be honest. Let's call it for what it is. It's the system. But how do you, in a leader, lead within a system that still empowers the people, that still leaves space for you to grow in your clarity, right? The second step I do is audit. You guys know Birth with Purpose Chapter 1 requires you to do a self audit. It becomes so easy to internalize every problem that happens around us, especially as a high capacity, high achieving woman. Instead, allow yourself to do a quick audit. Ask yourself three questions. Did I clearly communicate the goal? Was support or structure missing? Now, this is where you assess, is it the people or is it the system? And in this moment, this failure or this mistake or this mishap, is this a learning moment for my team? Or more importantly, what can I learn from this? Is this a learning moment for me? See, when we conduct self audits, audits lead you to awareness instead of shame, awareness instead of blame, right? And this third step I really want us all to be intentional about is anchor yourself in your wins, okay? When your confidence starts to feel a little shaky, it's okay to go and pull out your receipts. Go back to the hard conversations you've had. Go back to the progress you've made through those conversations, the systems you've built and improved. And remember, you're not new to this. Remind yourself you're not failing, you're refining, right? Remind yourself that leadership is a practice, not a performance. Oftentimes, we feel like we have to show up and perform, you know? Performance reviews, right? Performance audits. As a leader, show up in practice, show up in service. Let's let's drop the performance, right? Go back and look at your receipts. Yes. If you're not new to me, you know that I love to talk back. So use the comments section or the chat feature to provide some feedback. Let's engage. I want this to be a conversation where we are gathering up the tools and the resources so that even later today, you can step into a room and feel more confident, feel more authentic, and feel more bold in how you are showing up. Okay. Now, the next point I want to get into is how do we shift from it's all on me to, let's reframe it, to how do we grow as a team, right? So, how many of you are leading teams of people in your careers? So, you're in that mid-level management space or even senior level management, and you're leading a team that has many different personalities, many different levels of self-assurance, self-awareness, or even skill sets. If this is you, I want you to understand that leadership is not about pressure. And sometimes we've grown up in leadership systems that pressure us to be above and beyond, to do above and beyond, to carry all the things, especially as women. You're strong, right? You're strong so you can handle it. Leadership is not about pressure, it's about partnership. How can you, as a leader of your teams, partner with the people that support and work with you, right? As purpose-driven women and men, we often take pride in being the dependable one, right? Raise your hand if that's me. I'm the go-to. I'm the fixer. You heard me say earlier, I want to fix the problem. I want to help you. Present a problem to me, I got it. I'm locked in, right? Or maybe you're the one that others say, "Oh, she got it. Let her handle it. Let's call in the fixer." Who are the Olivia Popes on the call, right? Is that you? Raise your hand. But what happens is over time, that evolves into something much heavier, known as control. How many of you feel that you're controlling? Have you said it to yourself? I'm trying to control this situation. I've had to do that. And I'm not talking necessarily about the toxic kind of control, you know? I'm talking about the kind of control that quietly whispers, that says, if I don't do it, it won't get done. Who said that? You know, it's faster if I just do it myself. I heard you when you said it. you know, or they're not ready to do it on their own yet, so let me step in. That's not help. That's not leadership. That's control. Does this sound familiar to you? Have you said any of those phrases? It's faster if I just do it myself. Let me do it. Move over. Yes. It's also disabling. Thank you so much, Jared. Yes. Here's the cost of falling into the trap of control, because it is a trap, right? When we lead from control instead of trust, we become the bottlenecks, right? We become the bottlenecks and then we get aggravated, frustrated with our team because we're like, what are you doing? Right? We rob our teams of their learning moments. We rob them of their growth. We also end up burned out, frustrated, wondering why we're the only ones getting it right. Is that you? Am I talking to somebody? Hold your edges because I'm coming for them. Are you the ones that think that you're the only one getting it right on your team? You're enabling. Yeah, burnout was an exhaustion, right? But here's where the shift comes in. Delegation is not a weakness. How many of you have been afraid to delegate? Or you won't release that control of delegation. Delegation is not a weakness. It's a boundary. It's also a leadership superpower. You want to show up as that superhero on your team? Delegate. There's a difference, though, between how we delegate and how we dump off, right? Don't show up in your team dumping off work, assigning without the support or clarity or expectation, right? Delegating is when you empower, you trust, you provide space to grow. Delegation says to everyone on your team, everyone in your space, that I believe in your ability. Belief is the most powerful, number one key aspect to confidence. You have to have that belief in you, but you also have to be able to share and allow space for others around you to grow in their beliefs. So you're saying in delegation, as a leader, I believe in your abilities. It's building their confidence. It creates buy-in. And it'll also strengthen your team for the long haul, for the long stretch. So when mishaps do happen, they say, I have a leader that believes in me. So let me believe and support in the processes, in the systems that he or she has created, right? So here's how I've shifted as a leader. Over the last couple of weeks, I told you, I showed up and I felt like my team was falling to pieces. And I blamed myself. But I had to go within and say, how do you shift as a leader, right? Let me ask you, I want to launch a poll right now. If you are leading in teams, when you delegate a task, what do you honestly tend to do next? Okay? When you delegate a task, do you A, jump in and fix it yourself? Do you stay available but you hover? Or are you a leader that coach? You want to coach them through if they get stuck or when or wherever they get stuck. Or are you comfortable with delegating and passing it off and saying, run with it and I'll review it later? There's no shame, there's no right or wrong answer in this. And I do see the poll going. And I do see many, many responses. But the one response that most people have, and I don't see it here, the common response is jumping back in. So I am excited to see that we are a room full of leaders that stay available, that coach through, or are very comfortable with just delegating and then reviewing it later. But I do want to talk about jumping back in and fixing it myself. That is really the root of poor leadership that I found in some women leaders because we have that nurturing aspect where we don't want to let go. This is especially true for recovering perfectionists who I saw some recovering controllers, but who's here is a recovering perfectionist? I've been guilty of it too, right? The instinct to jump back in, the instinct to hover. Sometimes coaching can be too much, right? You provide that mix of urgency, but it's also fear, and it causes some of your team members to break down. It creates burnout in them. And when our teams are burnt out, what does that say to us? Yes, recovering perfectionist. DNP, done not perfect, right? That is a motto. It has been the mantra um, for some years, right? So sometimes we think that when we're helping people, we're coaching them. We think that, okay, this is a learning moment. Everything is not a learning coaching moment when it comes to your leadership. Not when there's actionable steps that need to be taken. What we're really doing, if we assess every problem as a coaching moment and now I need to, develop 12 slides for a training, what we're doing is we're teaching people that they can't move without us, right? Every time something happens on your team, do you turn into, we're going to schedule a 90-minute meeting. We're having a training session. We're going to walk this through start to finish. Sometimes that's not what your team needs. What it's really doing is teaching your people that they cannot move, they can't function, they cannot sustain without you. That's not leadership. That's dependency. Is your team dependent on you to get their jobs done? In your business, are you creating that dependency? Right? Ask yourself these questions. It's not about judgment, it's not about shame. Um, Working with me is about asking yourself and being honest with yourself, right? The last point that I've seen that I really want to touch on, especially during this moment of um, Birth with Purpose celebration, this summer of uncertainty, right? All around the world, is leading with less pressure and more purpose, right? If you've ever felt like it's been all on you and your role depends on you being on 24/7, or like your value is tied to how much you carry, I want to remind you of something recently that I had to tell myself. Leadership was never meant to cost you your peace. And I know you've heard that before. So many of you on the call, um, I've heard you, I've seen you. We've talked about how important rest is, how important your peace is if you're going to show up authentically, boldly as a leader, right? Real leadership does not come from overfunctioning. Who's overfunctioning? In this space right now, do you feel burnt out? The real leadership comes from alignment, right? It comes from knowing your role. It comes from honoring your boundaries, trusting your purpose, even when those outcomes aren't immediate, right? If you're like me, you're like, okay, I know my purpose. I'm in service to my purpose. Tomorrow, the things should happen. Even when it's not immediate, honor your boundaries. Be steadfast in knowing your worth and your role, and know that your leadership matters to the people that are supporting you, right? Before we close, and I know I feel like I've talked rapid fire, right? So I want an opportunity to open up for some questions and feedback. But before we do, I have some powerful reminders that help me as a leader be more purposeful and have less pressure or performance, right? One reminder, leadership isn't about figuring it out. You've said that. I feel like a broken record, but I'm going to continue to say it. Leadership isn't about having it all figured out. It's about willing to grow. Sometimes that growth will happen in public. It's about also willing to guide others with grace, with honesty, acknowledging that you do not have to be perfect to lead well. I'm going to repeat that. You do not have to be perfect to lead well. Also, you were never meant to be the system. So stop blaming yourself if the system is failing or if the system has issues, right? If the entire process breaks down when you step away, that's not leadership, that's survival. Systems need sustainability, right? If your leadership only works when you're there, when you're present, it's time to redesign your system, not redefine your worth, because your worth is not the cause, not the issue. When you're working in the system, let your absence be a moment for others to get themselves together, right? Not a moment for everything to fall apart. You not being there as a leader should be a moment for your team to rise, right? You were not meant, never meant to be the system for your team. And lastly, your purpose can hold you when your performance can't. I felt a shout. Felt a shout. I know you guys are on mute, but I felt a shout. Your purpose can hold you when your performance can't. You will have some off days. Let's be realistic. You will have slow seasons. Sometimes you may miss the mark, but purpose does not waver when your metrics do, okay? High capacity women, we're looking at numbers. We're always looking at data. And what does the numbers say? What are the people telling us? Where are the analytics, right? Your purpose does not waver when your metrics do. So be reflective and always tap back into your why. Your purpose can hold you tight when your performance can't, right? One thing about Birth with Purpose that I want to share is that it was never about perfect timing. When I wrote that book, when I launched my business, it was not about perfect timing. It was about alignment. It was about being able to show up authentically, show up honestly, and trust what was planted in me and still grow through it, right? So, before we close this conversation, or before I close this conversation and take a sip of coffee, let's check the chat box for any feedback or questions. Um, Anyone in the room, if you have any questions and you would like to maybe come off audio or type your questions in the chat box, let's see. Raise your hand if you would like to share anything or go back to one of the points that we discussed. Thank you so much, Dr. Brinkley. I know that when I asked the question, have you all ever felt like the single point of failure? If that was you, I hope that I've shared some tools for you to reframe, to slow down the spiral of what did I do wrong? Shift your blame into a season of clarity. Conduct those self audits, but most importantly, get anchored in your wins. Pull out your receipts. If there's one highlight, I could say when you feel like that single point of failure and you want to dismantle the limiting belief of that, pull out your receipts. Remember, you're not new to this. You've been doing this. You're just refining, right? Any other comments or feedback? Awesome. I thank you all for joining. I want to remind you, though, that this recording will be available on Coffee and Confidence Conversations YouTube later today. I appreciate all of you for just the opportunity to pause long enough to check in with yourself, to check in with your purpose. Whether you are leading a team in a classroom, in a business, in a household, or all of the above, you were not meant to carry it all. You were not called to carry it all. You were called to cultivate. You were called to build systems. You were called to empower people. You were also put in service to trust the process. And most of all, lead with your values and self-worth. Let me see. It's a question. How do we purchase the book and where can we find you online? Thank you so much, Dr. Brinkley. You can purchase a copy of Birth with Purpose from my website, shecanaspire.com. You can also connect with me there for a Coffee and Confidence one-on-one chat. You can also take my What's Your Leadership Coffee Persona quiz. It is a fun, interactive quiz that will give you your leadership persona. Are you a bold espresso like me? Or maybe you're that mocha latte or French Americano. So that you have the ability to understand your weaknesses, your strengths, and also some affirmations to lead your team purposeful and with the sorry, I'm reading chat, reading and talking can be challenging for me sometimes, so that you can get the tools you need to show up as that authentic and bold leader that you are. Thank you all so much again for joining me. Until next time, I ask you to stay bold, stay grounded, and never stop birthing with purpose. Thanks for tuning into Coffee and Confidence Conversations. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode filled with empowerment and inspiration. If you want to dive deeper, visit shecanaspire.com for more tools, resources, and ways to connect. Until next time, keep growing, keep leading, and keep sipping on confidence.